Hey kids, welcome to another episode of GLEN YAPS. I'm in the middle of doing some work on my house, so I'm taking a little breather just to do a video, just to break up the monotony. So recently I posted some pictures of my recording studio and some of the drum sets I'm using, and got into conversations with a couple of drummers about bass drum pedals. So I'm just going to say what I've kind of used presently, also where I started for the pedals, because I have experimented like most drummers. Basically I keep going back to the same pedal, which is a Tama Camco pedal, which I've used for decades. It just the most comfortable for me for the footboard, and I love the action on it, and it's got enough adjustability for me to just suit my playing style. Now I'm a flat foot player most of the time, which basically means your foot is down on the pedal and you motion the pedal with the front part of your foot where your toes are, and you move the pedal this way. Kind of give a little demonstration here. I don't know if you can see that. So it's basically pushing this way, whereas toe players play up, heel up. I play heel down most of the time. So my very first drum pedal was a strap type pedal. It came with a Hoshino professional kit that I got and still own. The pedal is long gone. It's one of those generic type pedals, although it was better than most of the generic pedals at the time. I like the footboard size of this particular one, and it wasn't the foot shape so much. That design was a little more, I always used to call it the coffin pedal, because it reminded me of those old coffins in the Dracula movies that were kind of like this way and longer at the bottom. Anyways, long story short, I used the pedal for years, but it kept breaking, so I kept modifying the pedal, and every modification I did to the pedal was like it got better and better. But eventually the bearings wore out in it, and you know, it actually got stolen. It got stolen from a gig, so I don't know why anybody wanted it. It was pretty beat up, but yeah, it got stolen from a gig, and so I had to move on. So I went into, I think it was the early 80s, I bought a Tama Flexi Flyer, and I absolutely hated that pedal. The footboard, rectangular, was really long, and I found it really uncomfortable compared to the Hoshino one. The Hoshino one was a shorter pedal. Not a big fan of long footboards. I absolutely hated that pedal. I believe I sold it with a drum set, but all I know is I was happy when it left the house. And it had nothing to do with the function of it. The pedal worked fantastic. It was a strap-based pedal, not a chain drive. But I absolutely hated the footboard on it. Now, the other thing is I play flat foot, but I also play barefoot. I don't play with shoes. I don't play with socks. So I found that pedal uncomfortable on my bare feet. I won't get into why I play barefoot, except to say that I always compare it to playing holding sticks with mitts on. I just can't have something on my hands to hold the drumsticks, and I definitely can't have anything on my feet to play the pedals. A lot of the times where it's funny, where I practiced when I was a kid was in my mom's attic, and that attic was super hot, especially in the summertime. So I was usually drumming in my shorts and a really light t-shirt, and I couldn't drum with socks or shoes on because my feet would sweat constantly. And there's a funny the funny memory is I was playing a show at our local Bellevue Park in the early 80s, and I did a drum solo, my first drum solo, and I had such an anxiety to play that gig, being my first there, and my first ever solo, that I played everything so way too fast. But after the drum solo and one last song, I was playing barefoot, and I walked across the stage to talk to my wife after the show, and my feet were leaving wet marks on the concrete stage. So basically that's why, like in my mom's attic, I could never play with socks on it because it was just so hot. So anyways, long story short, that's where we went with the two pedals. So from there, I read a small article on a Camco pedal. Didn't know much about them at the time, and I researched the company a little bit back then. Like I say, we're talking early 80s, and the Camco company themselves were legendary. They were originally a hardware manufacturing company, and so always a good review on their gear and their pedals. And then it led me to researching this pedal called a Martin Fleetfoot pedal, and I don't have one of those pedals. They're rare. I believe they go back to the 30s, maybe even before that. But they're the pedal company that started all these floating type pedals, like the Camco, the DW5000. They're the company that innovated that design. Most people don't know that, but when you find one of those pedals online, you can see where that design comes from. So I'm not totally sure if Martin Fleetfoot pedals merged to Camco, but anyways, the Camco pedal at the time, the earlier ones, definitely resembled that. So from there, that design was around for decades, and you didn't hear much about it until the 80s. Like, at least in my research, it's like everybody was talking Ludwig Speed Kings when I was a kid, and so I got into that too. But as a flat foot player, a Speed King pedal is a little bit of a hindrance because of the heel on it, the heel design. I'll show you a couple of the pedals in a second. So anyways, I got into the Tama version of the Camco pedal design. Now apparently, I'm not sure what the scoop is, but DW ended up buying the Camco dies for the drums, and I assume the pedals. So if I'm wrong on this, let me know, but I'm pretty sure that Camco owns all the rights to, including the pedals. Tama's Camco is basically, I'm going to say, a tribute to that original Camco design with their own modifications to it. So it was like their version of a modern Camco pedal. I'm not sure how that totally worked. For years I thought they bought the rights to the Camco pedal, and I could be wrong on that also. I'm just not sure. But the DW pedal that came out, I think like the 5000 or the previous models, is definitely based on the Camco design. So everybody thinks the DW's pedal, that floating design, was like the new concept, but it was not. It's originally a Martin Fleetfoot pedal and Camco design after. Also in that mess, there's a pedal by Grudge that came out, and it was actually designed by Camco. And I own a bunch of vintage Grudge kits, and I end up getting one of these pedals, and it's actually a really cool pedal. It's like a Camco pedal, feels the same. Maybe not as tight, because the Camcos I use are chain drive. This one is a strap. But definitely an interesting pedal and very versatile. So I'm going to show you a few. Now I've gone through Tama, Iron Cobras. I played a beautiful Premier pedal when I was in the high school music course. I can't remember what that pedal was, but I love that pedal. But again, it was a little bit tricky because the heel on it is like a Ludwig, where it's a little bit elevated more than I would like. But as I guess if you're a heel up toe player, it's, you know, both pedals are great. And I've gotten, you know, brand name pedals, like with Thai drum sets you get pedals and all that fun stuff. Pearl pedals, I've got a bunch of vintage Pearl drum pedals and kick drum pedals, I mean. So anyways, I always come back to the Camco chain drive. So, and this is the one that I've used for decades, since the early 80s. Now I own about 8 of the single ones, and I own 1 of the double bass, what they call cheater beaters. This is my pedal of choice. They are absolutely a workhorse for me. I love them, and I will probably always use these pedals. Now this one is sitting on the shelf and it's a little bit dirty, but it was the easiest one to grab. Now on my big kit to my left, your right, I'm using Camcos on it. I'm using the original Camcos that I bought back in the 80s on that kit. They're still going strong. I take them apart, I clean them, I grease the bearings, make everything nice, so they've lasted all these years, and I play that kit every day. Some of these pedals I've bought used over the years, because whenever I see a deal on one, I'll grab one. Because you just never know when things are, you're gonna need parts or you need a backup. So I've got 8 of them. This one I've never used except for practicing on a practice pad kit, but it works great. Now the difference between these pedals, all the pedals, and the 2, like the Camco pedals, and the 2 that I have on that kit, the 2 on the kit I've modified. Now what I mean by modified, on my Yamaha kit, the bass drums I have raised up in the front. They're actually off the floor. They're not on the floor. There's, you know, 1.5 inches, sometimes 2 inches of space under the front, so they're almost going uphill. And so what I've done also is I've taken links out of the chain on those pedals, so the footboard is up even higher. Again, I'm a flat foot player, so I was experimenting with a lot of things, because most pedals were catered to the heel up players. So the chain links are shorter, and also I have a big counterweight on each beater on that. And I've also changed on that pedal. No, those pedals are fine. That was a two alter modifications on it. The rest are all stock, but those two I definitely wanted the links out, and I don't use it on any other kits like that because my bass drums are not up in the air. I do that for the bass drum has a different sound with the kick drum raised, and being it's a recording kit for the studio, I basically I want to maintain the extra sustain it gets with it raised off the floor. So hard to explain, but that's the scoop. So anyways, Camco pedals, my favorite long time pedal. Okay. Like I say, I don't have a Martin Fleetfoot pedal, but I do have a 60s Gretsch pedal. You can find these on the internet from 50 to 100 bucks. This actually still has the, looks like the original strap on it. I got this as one of my vintage Gretsch kits. I do have the beater. And you can see the similarities if you own a DW pedal or a Camco pedal from the 60s, pre-Tama. You would have seen Camco written down big letters down the center. You can see the similarities in these pedals. Camco designed this Gretsch pedal, for those that don't know, and that's why there are similarities. Remember, Camco was a hardware company first. It's missing a couple of things, like it's missing a wing nut here. From what I've read, the problem with the wing nut there is your toe would get caught in at the odd time if you were a heel up player. Me as a flat foot player, it doesn't affect me. And also, like the Camco, pre-Tama and after, has the adjustment holes for spring tension and angle of the beater shaft. So, but they look very, very similar. It's a fun pedal. Even with the strap. The strap now will probably break. It's pretty dry. I do have spares, and does have a name on here. So somebody's previous owner, but like I said, I've got that with a vintage drum set. And as you can see, this is my beat up DW 5000 pedal. Looks very similar to that Gretsch kit pedal, except that it's got the footboard base. This pedal has gone through the war. This is the way I got it. I've used this pedal quite extensively. I find the footboard, playing barefoot, I found it too narrow, and I prefer a grip design. So this, although this pedal was okay to play and quite fast, just like the Camco, comfort wise I didn't care for it that much. And like I say, this is the way I got it. It was beat up like this. I didn't do a thing to it. I cleaned it at the time, but cleaning it didn't help because it still looks like crap. But I am going to eventually take this all apart and repaint it. I'm going to have it sandblasted and then repainted. I'll do all the painting. I'll have someone sandblast it for me, and we'll get it back to mint condition. But this is actually a great pedal. I mean, the 5000s legends, you know, I've played this 5000 pedal. Now it's up to the 9000s. A lot of these pros They say the 5000 is better. I wouldn't know. I'm not going to be playing a 9000 anytime soon. So I have a few 5000 pedals in the sense of a hi-hat and cable hi-hat. This is the only 5000 bass drum pedal I own. And then we have the Legend Ludwig Speed King pedal. I have probably 5 of these pedals. This heel plate is can pivot or lock in place. This one I've locked in place. I like the grips on it. It's a wider footboard, so flat foot it feels really good. Unfortunately, it's the height here, this kickstand height right here, that bothers me. And I also like a split heel, whereas if you're playing barefoot, even if I have this pivoting unlocked, I still have these 2 rails bothering my heel. So it's a great pedal. I've restored quite a few of these pedals. There are springs in the tower. It's got this beautiful clean look. This one I believe is a 70s. I have 60s ones also. There's springs in here, towers, and there's cams in here. And they're adjustable. Most people just starting out don't know that the spring tension's adjustable. There's screws in here, slotted screw that you can adjust. Great pedal. No complaints on it, except the way I play, it's hard on the heel. But everything else, the action, the speed, fantastic pedal. I've used these for years, but not steady. And then we have a modern version, an Iron Cobra. This one came with one of my Tama kits. I've had a few come through, being donated also for my Christmas cheer kits. They're an okay pedal. Lots of adjustments, double chain, so it's really heavy duty. What I like about this pedal is there's no play side to side whatsoever. It's solid as a rock. I'm not totally crazy about their clamp for the bass drum, but that's a design similar to like Rogers pedal back in the day. I own one of these. That's it. That's all I'll do. I do have the hi-hat, and I also have the, it's like a pedal for closing down your hi-hat for double bass. I do have the Iron Cobra version of that. I went and bought one of those brand new, but it was on a clearance. They're expensive, but added it to the collection. So that's a scoop on those pedals. I'm going to show you behind the kit, because one of the pictures there, people were asking what the pedals are for. So I'm going to carry the camera over there, so get behind the drums. As you can see, my bass drums are off the ground. This one a little bit more than this one. You ask why? Well, I don't like both bass drums sounding the same. I find that kind of counterproductive. I want both bass drums to have their own sound. Okay, so here we are. Let's turn a light on here. As you can see, we have Camco pedals. These are my very first 2 original pedals. They still have the original beaters. I shaved these beaters on one side flat, and then one, I've shaved this one too, but I've rotated to the other side. Just for different sounds, opposite sounds. Just not, I don't want two bass drums sounding exactly the same. This is a 5,000 cable hi-hat, which goes all the way, the cable goes over here to the spoke hi-hat system. Now, you can hit these as chimes. Or sorry about the shaky hands. It's kind of a Terry Bozzio thing. This Camco is connected to the electronic pad, and that enables me to play different sounds, either an electronic kick drum, or I can trigger keyboard phrases with it, because this pad is sometimes connected to a keyboard that's buried under here, back here, a synthesizer, and I can trigger keyboard phrases with it, or you know, have a kettle drum sound or whatever. There's actually a trigger. You can see it on the other side. It's hitting a trigger. Now this funky hi-hat, this pedal has been with me for decades. It is actually my favorite hi-hat. It's I believe it's a spin-off of a Linko. You've got a tension adjustment here. I love the rubber foot. That's a rubber foot pad on it. And being a flat foot player most of the time, I love the grip on it. So it's a little bit dirty right now. We normally clean all that stuff up. But that pedal has lasted me and lasted me. Now, it's been modified also. I've got a stronger spring in it. And the cup that's underneath here, that has been changed. And there is a different clutch on there for, not right now, but normally I put one on for double bass. But this stand has been with me a long time. Now you might laugh, but this is basically a Pearl clone. This Pearl made them, and I have a few of the Pearl ones, with corrugated patterns like this on their footboard. And the Pearl hi-hat I use the most live. This one is strictly in the studio kit. I didn't want to ruin the rubber pads and stuff. But it's always, in recent years, I'd say for the last 15 years, has been a studio hi-hat. And it works fantastic. It's quick. It does exactly what I want. I do have other hi-hats. Ludwig, Rogers, Tama. The Tama ones are really nice. I'm trying to think of any other ones. Thai ones I've got. And DW. They're all fine, but it all comes down to the footboard. I have big feet. As you can tell, big feet. I don't like, because I play barefoot, I don't like my feet off the edge of the pedals. I hate it when my toes are off the pedals. You can see that this pedal is just a bit wider. And I don't like barefoot with these type of heels because they dig in. That's the DW 5000. I think all their pedals are like that from this model prior. But the Camco, everything is just perfect for me. The pedal is a little bit small for my feet, but for whatever reason, it just feels the most comfortable. These pedals are always tuned up. I always clean them, grease them up. They have never failed me. And like I say, the chains, you can't tell by looking at it, but the chains are shorter, and it gives me actually more power. So when I whip the bass drum pedal, I really can get a good crack, because it just took some experimenting to dial them in the way I want them. Nowadays, when I play live, the pedals are pretty much stock. The Camco pedals are stock. So that's it, kids. Sorry. That's the pedals I use. Even my other drum sets on the other side of the room, they're all Camco pedals, although the hi-hats are Tama, I think, on that one kit. So that's what I use, and I'll be sticking with Camco till the day I drop. Right, thanks for watching.